essentially almost depersonalizing or de-emotionalizing the business, right? And just making it, here's the processes, like here's what the business has decided to do, here's what the business needs, instead of trying to make all these decisions and getting into spirals, like you said, about pricing and charging and increasing and all of these things, which is really easy to get into. And it's so helpful to just have that nugget of like, no, just like pull back. What's the process? What's the policy? Stick to that. It doesn't have to be this whole thing.
Hello, hello. This is Holly Rustick here with Grant Writing and Funding, and I'm super excited to be featuring one of our Academy students today. And she's been in the Academy for a few months and has just quit her job. She's in a full-time job. So that's Sydney Bass, and she is a grant writing consultant and strategist for grant funding solutions. So excited to have you here, Sydney. Welcome. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you so much. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, I'm so excited because we're actually recording this in the past, but it's coming out in the future for when you already know you're going to be transitioning. So right now you're like, I'm like gearing up to quit within a month, and then like boom, like this is going to be released after that. So I'm so excited to like have this conversation with you. Yeah, really.
Yeah, I'm excited to share all of the juicy details. So
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And and the thing is like, transitioning, they're big things, and you're doing it around the beginning of the year. And I think that's so fun and brave of you too, to be like, okay, this is going to be a new beginning all around. So I love that. I love that so much. So good.
yeah.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
joined the Academy in October 2024, so just a few months
Mhm.
ago. And I know you've been active in the group. We've been seeing you in the Slack. I've been seeing you in the reviews, coming to the calls, like so good. So we're going to be talking about like how that's been a support in this transition. But first, I just want to talk about it. Like I want to know how long you've been in grant writing, and like we on purpose did not go over this in the green room because I was like, I want to like to have this live with you on the podcast. So tell me about like your experience, how you got into grant writing, and yeah, what this journey has been like so far for you.
Yeah. So yes, like you said, I joined in October. So I don't even think it's been 2 months yet because it
Yeah,
was the end of October. I
literally.
currently have a full-time corporate job that I
Mhm.
took about 6 months ago. Because
Okay.
prior to that, I had been self-employed. So for the past 10 years, I was self-employed. I
Mhm.
had kind of my own side business in a different industry, coaching, and I was also doing freelance grant writing. So I have been doing grant writing for probably 15 years. I have a master's of social work, and I got that about 15 years ago. And I was always sort of doing it, but it was very much freelance. It was side gigs. It wasn't a business per se. And so I was really having trouble sustaining like consistent projects and consistent income in that sort of like freelance side gig,
Okay.
side hustle, if you will, of how I had been treating my grant writing, even though, I was good at it and I've done it for a long time and I have kind of the background and the cred and all of these things with it. But for whatever reason, and even it was in 2023, I had a period of 3 months where I just didn't have work because the person I was subcontracting with, the clients, like there were no applications they were applying to, or the federal budget didn't get passed. And, there were all of these things that just kind of came into play where that was a trickle down effect for me. And so I really felt that the only way at that point for me to have the sustainability or stable income or things like benefits, like maternity leave, if my husband and I want to try to have a baby, was to get a job, right? Like a job to give that to me was kind of where I felt that that was the what I just had to do. And so that's what I did and that's where I found myself. And I knew kind of pretty quickly that that corporate job wasn't for me, but then I just felt kind of stuck.
Okay.
In
You're like,
that.
I decided, I made a decision, I'm doing the thing.
Right. I was like, the rational thing is to kind of ride this out. Like,
Yeah.
don't make rash decisions, right? To leave. Let's just stick it out and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I found you in the academy, but I somehow did. And I was like, wait, what is
Did.
this? Like, where did this come from? How did it get into my inbox? Because I'm not necessarily new to like online businesses and webinars either.
Yeah.
And I just like felt I was like, I just need to join. Like the way it's being presented sounds like it really resonates. And it might be sort of the missing link to kind of
Yeah.
the that I was struggling with before with the grant writing.
Nice. Yeah. And I'm wondering too, like what do you know kind of like now that you're like, okay, I'm gonna go back into full time, like are you feeling also more prepared than you were before? Because there were gaps. There were like, these things that made you choose a corporate job and something, that had more maybe not variable income, right? Like more fixed income. So like how are you positioned now to be like, no, I think I'm gonna be good, even if it's variable income, like I've got that sorted.
It's 100% different and it feels so much better now. So I think the biggest thing that I really did resonate with you on the webinar was just your approach to business and then your approach to the mindset behind business as well. Both things which I'm not necessarily new at, but just connecting that to the freelance grant writing business, somehow my brain hadn't made the connection that I could apply other business skills to grant writing. It sounds a little silly saying it now, and I just, like, needed you to be like, "Here's how we do it," and in the academy, you give the, like, templates and contracts and structure, and it would have taken me so much longer to come up with that from scratch. Like, there's no way that I would be like, "Okay, 2 months later, cool, I have, like, all of these pieces you've given me, like, in place," to be like, "Great, I can make this transition now," and just go back to what I was doing because you do get, I think, even a little bit scared in a corporate job, even if you have worked for yourself before, like somehow there's some sort of pull that you're like, no, this is like the stability, right? Even if it's so it can be a little scary leaving that job, even if you have experience
Yeah.
or you're going into something. But yeah, the structure and having clients on the retainer and having boundaries and processes and raising prices where you've been undercharging, like, and then the reassurance of
Mhm.
those things from peers who are respected, right, in the industry is so valuable. Because when I was just freelancing, I was kind of off on my own, like in my own world. So I had nobody to really ask or talk about it with. And so those
Right.
things have been really helpful kind of points along the journey to like pulse check or get the reassurance or have the guidance like go here and do this module and like you'll get the clarity, and it's just been like amazing.
Love that. I love it so much. And even coming from and that, that whole thing of because we have had people like you as well come in to say, I was freelancing or I started, but I just never had the systems in place. So just like you, it was like, I don't know why, this is great. I know I can have a business with grants. It's not like having to like overcome that. It's like we know that's definitely something out there that's needed, but just having consistent clientele and all of that is where, those gaps are. So yes, I'm so glad that you found the systems in the academy to then get on the retainers, get that cash flow, get the boundaries, get the contracts, like all of the things, and
Mhm.
apply like, oh yeah, I'm already running other parts of my business too. So you mentioned you had another business as well, like you do other things besides just freelancing or freelance grant writing. Is that something that you're looking to pull into as you go full time into your grant writing business to pull into those, or are you kind of focused more on the grant writing? Can you kind of talk about that?
Yeah, so it's a completely different industry. So my other small business is in personal styling. So it's helping women feel good in what they wear. So it's kind of the two sides of my brain on two separate businesses in those things. And I am going to be concentrating a little bit more on the grant writing as my primary, and styling is almost more of a side gig. It's also more virtual sort of courses that people can do on their own. So not as much of me as a one-to-one in that, whereas the grant writing is obviously more of me and my time, at least in the beginning as well. So yeah. And
Yeah.
I do would say too, one thing that I really appreciated is how you direct people to where to go and what they need to do based on their experience in the academy. Because I was a little unsure at first of like, okay, well, I was like, I have 15 years of experience. Like, is this academy gonna be a good fit, or is it gonna feel like it's, you know, for new people? And it's for both, right? Like, but you were very clear, like, okay, if you need grant writing skills, go here. If you have grant writing skills but need business skills, go here. And so I think having that guidance from you about what path to take really helped me hone in too and feel good about like, okay, this is like a really perfect investment for like what I need right now.
So yeah, that's so awesome because I think did you email me too right when you were thinking about joining or no?
I don't think I did. I attended the webinar and I know I was, like, putting questions in the chat, like,
Yeah.
"Are we
Okay,
gonna
all
do
right.
this? Are we gonna cover that?" Yeah, I don't know that I emailed. And again,
Yeah.
I don't know how I found you. Like, I
Oh,
can't
that's
trace
so
the
funny.
email. It was, like, some list I'm on somewhere was promoting your webinar,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, I'll just come to it for informational purposes, see if she says something I don't know about." And
That's
I just, like, really appreciated it, and it resonated, and it made a lot of sense, and I was like, "Oh, she knows what she's talking about." Like, more than I do at this point,
okay.
so I'm gonna go and, learn from her and take what she has to
Yeah.
give me.
And I think
Yeah.
that's such a good point to say because as a grant writer is like with a lot of experience too, and like 15 years, like right, you know what you're doing. I've kind of had a business, like, but still, if there's something missing and you're not actually making consistent income on a sustainable level, right? Where you can peacefully do that. I'm like, come to the academy, like even if you know how to write grants. And I think even there, we have people that have decades of experience in grants and they'll still submit for grant review sometimes just because
Mhm.
they're like, I might as well use this. It's available and I can get someone to check my grant before I submit it. Like, so cool, right? So
Yeah.
there's certain things. Have you used any of those components at all, or have you really hunkered down into the business acumen?
Yes, I've used the business reviews, I've used the grant reviews, I've used the coaching calls, the leads lists that, we do, and that's been super helpful. I've been having like coffee meetings, left and right with peers and kind of telling them this is what I'm doing. The peer connections, just like finding other people in grant writing has been really awesome to connect with. And then even the job opportunities in Slack. I've
Yeah,
had two interviews from that alone, from
I
just
love that.
peers dropping in job opportunities.
Yes,
So,
there's so
I
many.
mean, there's like just so many different ways to get value from it and to really push things along kind of on
Mhm.
your own pace, whatever you want, right? I'm kind of on a very accelerated pace because I just know that that corporate job is not for me. It's very draining on my energy and, what I feel like I'm good at and want to be spending my time doing. And so I just was like in and I said, "Okay, here's the things, I gotta do them," and we're progressing through.
I love that. And then how have you been able to balance doing that? Because you are doing that at an exponential rate, like moving forward in your business and focusing on it. You still do have a full-time job, right, currently. Well, not anymore when this is published, but you know what I mean, like on that. So how have you been handling your time with that?
It has been really hard and really exhausting, honestly, and so it's been a lot of early morning work or into the evening. I have been worked most weekends, because I do have a anchor client as well. I've had this client for a really long time. So there's like ongoing grant work I've been doing on top of the job, on top of building the business pieces. I took a lot of PTO from the job,
Okay.
because they had that policy available. So I, took extra time over the holidays and did my best to sort of recharge. And I was also sort of looked at it as like, okay, this is a short term grind, a burst
Yeah.
of, just extra work to get to where I want to be. And there's an end in sight. And so, yeah, it was really hard. So if somebody else is out there doing it, like
Yeah.
it can be really challenging for sure. And I think a lot of self care and coaching for myself, even too, has been really helpful and critical of getting enough sleep, like meditating, journaling, working out, being in nature, like all of those little pieces I've had to also sort of prioritize
Mhm.
doubly, just because I have felt so extended.
I love that, and I love the transparency, and yeah, that is a lot, like, you're like, "Okay, I've only been in this a month and a half, and I've already, like, boom, like, my business has, really put all the systems in place, all the things, getting all the structure, getting coming to the coaching," like, it is a lot to do with a full-time job and an anchor client, so I appreciate that, and just knowing, though, I like the mindset. Have you been utilizing the self-coaching in the program and just getting more of that mindset coaching as well to be like, "Okay, maybe it's hard, but it doesn't mean I can't have peace in this because it's leading to my goal." And like you said, it is just a short term thing. Like, how have you been able to leverage some of that support as well?
I mean, I think the coaching calls are really great for that, even if it's not necessarily my problem in the moment, right? It probably will come up soon. And so hearing people get coached on those things, I can remember and go back to that. I had a one on one with one of your other coaches with Gwen. And I did come into that call and I said, I just need mindset because my mind is sort of on a spiral of all of these things. And that was really helpful to have her sort of I don't wanna say rein me in, but just sort of like, "Okay, like, let's just work
Yeah.
through this, like, we'll get the action and the plan," and then also, really touch on that mindset piece. And so one of the things she did recommend too was the self-coaching 101 book, which just came in today. So I have that, and I was, familiar a little bit with that process, and I like how it's from, you or from the book, but you add on that sort of, okay, well, here's how you feel when you believe this belief, right? But what is that action that you can then take to get yourself out of that belief or to propel you into the next future step? And so I'm a very action strategy person. And so I like having that on too. It's like, okay, like I feel anxious or overwhelmed. Like, what is that leading to? And how do I get myself out of that? Or they're so helpful. Like, I don't think you can run a business yourself or be an entrepreneur without having that mindset piece.
Absolutely. I think that's the biggest hidden change and component in being an entrepreneur that people just don't really talk about. It's not that people don't, you hear about mindset, you hear about things, but it sounds so like not tangible. But then when we do the
Hmm.
self-coaching, that's why I love that book, it turns it into a tangible process. Like
Yeah.
it's not just like some woo-woo affirmation, visualization, which that's actually really good too. And that's actually a tangible thing. But it's not only that, it's
Mhm.
like, okay, here's like actually steps you can take for a lot of very A-type people, like grant writers. I think a lot of us are very A-type. Like, we're
Yes.
like, okay, we just need a plan, we need the thing, and we got to pull back some kind of like, okay, mindset is actually a strategy.
Mm.
So working on that is super important. I love that. And I
Yeah.
think that too, like we unbury who we are so much when we're having to be out there talking about pricing, because that shows like what is our worth, what is our values, where are our boundaries. Like it really does make you step into who you really are and to face a lot of the things that may have been put on you right through life, and to
Mhm.
kind of say, how can I take these off, how can I really be authentic and who I am and courageous, right? So it's a lot to work through.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's
I know
fun.
you have it's become a frequent nugget that I repeat to myself that I have heard you say through the modules and in calls, but it's essentially almost depersonalizing or de-emotionalizing the business, right? And just making it, here's the processes, like here's what the business has decided to do, here's what the business needs, instead of trying to make all these decisions and getting into spirals, like you said about pricing and charging and increasing and all of these things, which is really easy to get into. And it's so helpful to just have that nugget of like, no, just like pull back, like, what's the process? What's the policy? Stick to that. It doesn't have to be this whole thing. Like, just make it
Yeah.
non-emotional.
Yeah, I
That's
love
really
it. That's been so helpful. Like neutralize it all.
yes.
Just feel
That's the word.
like, okay, I like thinking of because working with nonprofits. So I like feeling like my business is the board and I'm the CEO and I got to run it according to what the board tells me to do and how it needs to be run. And that's those policies, right? So it's just kind of like,
Mhm.
okay, when I think of it like that, it really does like neutralize it. It just makes me like, oh yeah, I can back this up, or I can just enforce my policy. Because a lot of people, they'll create the policies, right? Like, okay, we need lead time, 4 to 6 weeks, I'm writing a grant or whatever. But then when their clients ask them or push them over a grant, because they're not always reading your policies, right? Then they forget to implement, or they don't forget, they just get freaked out and they don't implement it. So instead of just reminding their clients, this is a policy I have, they kind of go into panic mode, right, about it, and then they don't say
Mhm.
anything. So I'm like, you can't just, it's not just about putting the policies in place, which is great, but then you have to actually implement them, right? And be courageous
Mhm.
behind those decisions. So do you feel like now that you have more policies and that you're looking at, launching this full-time business, do you feel like that you're getting that courageous to like to say, okay, I'm going to let my business lead, right? And have those policies in place.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It gives that very good solid ground to go off on. I think there is still a little bit of nerves of like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to enforce this at some point, right? Or, like follow up with someone if they haven't done X, Y, and Z yet. And so there is a little bit of that just nervousness, like I said, but the more you do it, the stronger it gets. And so just having those to fall back on, I just never had that before. And so it's just
Yeah.
a total game changer. Like it's like a 180 in what I have now compared to what I had, a year or two ago.
Yeah. And what's another good tip for that, for helping you in the beginning, especially enforce your policies, is having a VA that even if they're 5 hours a week, that design the communication for you with your clients to be like, tell them that, right? It's so funny. I just saw something, I can't remember which, some famous actor, he was saying, oh yeah, I told people for years, like, you got to get a hold of James. And James was just another email I created that I was actually the James I would respond to. And I was like, yep.
That's
So sometimes like
yes,
having that gatekeeper can help as
right.
well when we're like learning how to do that. Can be
Mhm.
very, very helpful, this side tip. But yeah, I know that's always with me too. It's like, failed payments are the thing, all the things, like we have our policies in place and I don't even see that anymore. Cause that used to cause me to start spiraling out a little bit, but now I don't even
Mhm.
see it, right? So it's like, it's just dealt with and somebody else knows my policies and they can just enforce those. And I'm like, cool, right? So not to like not give that power away, but it's just to like help you focus on the things that you need to focus on, right, in your
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. Well,
So
it takes that like depersonalization and neutralization a step further even, right?
yeah,
And
totally. Yeah.
removes it.
Even the culture of your
Yeah.
organization. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. But so I'm
Mm.
excited. So you are coming up to the end. We also do some help and assistance with transitioning into going full time in the program. We're actually adding new curriculum as well in the new year to have that even more in writing. Have you tapped into some of that with our program just to help with the transition plan coming up as well for quitting your job?
Yeah, definitely. I think it is helpful to have that, kind of game plan of things to think about, like income and savings and the resources and things that you're doing to be able to guide you. I think I was a little bit fortunate where I did have some kind of subcontracting jobs on the back end, and I do have an anchor client that can help, ease that transition a little bit for myself. But if you don't have that, then you might need like that longer time frame
Right.
and runway, right? To save up that extra so you can feel comfortable about quitting if you maybe don't have a job lined up. I was wanting to potentially quit a month sooner, but I do also feel like I want to have a few more jobs secured. And so those should hopefully by the time this is live, have at least one of those come through. And so that was again, just part of that strategy of being able to talk to people and have interviews and get some things steady and lined up to feel good about making that jump. Some people are very good at just jumping off those cliffs, and going for it. I have not historically been those one of those people. I like to sort of have my ducks in a row. And so I'm kind of feel like I'm sort of straddling. Like I have some ducks in the row, but there's going to be a little bit of cliff jumping too, and that's okay. I think for where I am right now.
Yeah, and that's definitely the strategy that we recommend is 3 to 6 months in savings, like
Mhm.
having an anchor client or at least something like, and lined up and having your business really streamlined. But we also know sometimes people get pushed off the cliff, like they
Yeah.
get fired, things happen, like, so, that you can still make it work, but it just,
Mhm.
the mindset's going to be the super important thing to work on if you're in that kind of position, because it's just about having the courage and doing the things and not spiraling out, because now your time is even more compressed, right? So you have less time to like freak out. It's like, no, no, no,
Yeah, which could be good too, right? You just have no
no.
choice but like
Yeah,
go all
no choice.
in.
Yeah, some people actually, I think that's why they prefer it, because it's like,
Mhm.
just full speed ahead with no time or room to even worry, right? It's like, yeah, it's so interesting. So, and I've been in both positions in life where I've had to like go full on and like make it happen. And then where I've been able to have like savings and MRR, like monthly recurring revenue and stuff before I make choices. And there's
Mhm.
definitely like, it just depends. Like, I do like having more set aside, but sometimes you are pushed and you just got to make it. So there's that. But
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you've been able to balance and still keep self-care even in this super busy time. Like, I'm really proud of you for doing that. I think that's really important as you're transitioning over. So yeah, so let's just go ahead. Have you been able then to secure more clients then in the last couple of months, or have some of the like more feelings of confidence in your business have just been like, now I have structure that I can take on clients? Can you kind of talk about that?
Well, I have my anchor client and I have two subcontractor roles, which is helpful. It's not, a client on a retainer though. So it is like, right, picking up hours
Right.
or projects if they have them. But having those in kind of my back pocket is nice to have. And then I do have a handful of interviews that I'm sort of in process of doing. So hopefully by the time January comes around and, this is live, one or two of those I will have successfully landed. I do think a big piece of it is the confidence of it
Mm.
as well, and I mean, there are so many nonprofits that need grant writers, and there's so much room that it's in my mind, I have no doubt that I will have the clients, and so I am a little bit on that kind of faith walking a little bit too with that, but definitely just the confidence and the structures and processes is just super helpful. Like, if I was just trying to go straight back to freelancing or subcontracting without any of those things, I don't think I would be able to do it because I just wouldn't have that
Wow. So you'd be
in
stuck in
me.
that corporate job that's not letting you out.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would really just be stuck or, still working on weekends and like feeling overextended and all of those things, which is also not good for self-care and mental health. So, yeah.
So you've been doing that, like we said, just because like you're in this transition and you're like, okay, you're doing both the things. But once January gets here, you'll definitely have more time because you won't have that 9 to 5. So at that point, you're like, okay, like what does your ideal workflow kind of look like? Would that be more of like a 30-hour, 40-hour week or like 20-hour week? Like how is that kind of looking for you?
Yeah, ideally it'll be somewhere between probably 20 and 30, 5-ish hours a day, something like that. We'll see how it breaks out. But I think part of it too is just having more flexibility and freedom in my schedule because right now it's just very controlled and that's something that I don't particularly thrive in. So even just being able to go to a coffee shop or to the library to work and I like to do days too where I have certain days that it's like, this is my admin day, and then this is my client day, this is my marketing, or, like chunks of time. And so being able to have those chunks of time designated in my workflow, even, coffee meetings with people or doing my market research, like emailing the leads, like having that built in to that structure of my day is something I'm very much looking forward to, of just being starting at 10 and like doing all these things that I like to do, ending at, 3 or 4, and then having also time for other life things. Like that's also been challenging is just fitting in groceries,
Yeah.
laundry, time
Right.
with family, my partner, my pets. Like it's been, yeah, it's definitely challenging. So I'm very much looking forward to more time. Um, and
I
then
love that.
balancing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that, knowing that you're doing the investment now to make it pay off, but as
Mhm.
a short burst, it's like, okay, I'm getting there. And yeah, and I'm excited for that because it is nice. I know I like at my coffee place, they all know me by name. I love it too. Like I love doing
Yeah.
things at my home, like here, and then like in the afternoons, I'm like
Hmm.
at the coffee shop, like I gotta get out of the house, like I gotta like kind of change up my
Yeah.
environment to focus on certain things. So if people wanna, they're like, "Okay, I'm interested. She's got 15 years of experience. I run a nonprofit. What kind of causes or, what's your service offer promise or something about what do you actually do?" Right. Or
Yeah. So I do or work with nonprofits that are in health and human services. And so specialties include mental health, substance use, homelessness, veterans, youth, workforce development. My anchor client is a performing arts nonprofit that has a bunch of youth programs as well. I do have these specialties and then also some generalist skills as well, where I have done just a wide variety between foundation, city, state, federal grants. So I kind
nice.
of have that
Nice.
wide breadth of, yeah, experience in different types of funding opportunities for people. And I'll do grant preparedness if someone's not quite ready, for grants yet, but really setting them up and helping them find those best match funders, as well as the grant writing, the strategy, the grant submission, and then grant reporting and grant management for clients if they want to add that on, they don't wanna do that. So I kind of think of it as fractional grant writing or sort of
Yeah.
outsourcing your grants department. So I can do the grants department for you, or I can assist your team if they're overburdened with things as well. I've also worked with city municipalities, which is something I'm interested in kind of digging in more and doing as well.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And where are you based? I know you can work anywhere virtually, but
Mhm.
like where are you based just in case that's something people want?
Yeah, I am based out of Richmond, Virginia. So
Okay,
East
nice.
Coast. Yeah.
I lived in Front Royal for a while.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. I have
yeah,
been camping and rock climbing
yeah.
in that area.
That is Shenandoah. It's
Yeah.
really
Yes.
beautiful.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it's so pretty. Yeah, I love it.
Oh, I love it so much. Okay, so thank you so much for your time today and coming in and sharing. So other people, they're kind of like going, I'm interested in the academy. I'm interested in getting out of my full-time job, but that's a lot to balance. Like, what would you say to them?
I mean, I would say there's probably no better time to get started than now. Like the longer you stay, the longer you're going to be there and not making any progress, right? Like, and you do not have to go as fast as I've pushed
Right.
myself
You got a
either, right?
goal.
Like the
You're like,
amazing thing, like your program is a year long and it's
yeah,
such a good price for the year and everything that you get. Like I did tell somebody that I joined this program and how much it was at 20, how much it was. And she was like, no way, that's so incredibly cheap. Like
it's a
for
drop
a
in the bucket.
year-long coaching program, like
Yeah.
if you compared to other coaching programs and other industries out there,
Right.
like it's
It's
such
a
a good
drop in
deal.
the bucket.
So
They're like
yes,
10,
exactly.
15K
Oh my
minimum.
gosh.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. And
And they
so
don't
I
do
think
unlimited
just
grant reviews.
right, exactly. Weekly coaching calls, like
Yeah,
all
no,
of
no,
these
they don't do
things.
that. Yep.
Um, yeah, I mean, I just think getting started is oftentimes the scariest too, right? Making that initial investment, it can be a really big hurdle, but I think anytime that you're getting those gut feelings of, hey, this I think is a good fit for me, I want to explore it. I think that is worth following up on, especially if you want to get out. Like you're going to have the strategies. There's no way like you're not going to get the strategies to do it and the support to do it.
Love it. Love it. Well, I'm super excited for you. Thank you again for coming on, and where can
Yeah.
people find you?
So right now you can find me on LinkedIn.
Yep.
I imagine we'll put the link in the profile
Yep,
since
we will.
LinkedIn
Mhm.
URLs are kind of weird numbers and letters. But Sydney Bass on LinkedIn would be where you can find me.
I love that so much. Thank you so much for Sydney for coming on and being joining the program. And I'm just congratulating you on all your success. And we will
Yeah.
definitely have you back on maybe after a year, like how you've been doing in business full time. So I love this so much. So congratulations to starting the new chapter of your life.
Thank you
So
so
great.
much. I would not be here without you, so thank you.
I love it. I love it. All right, we'll see you back inside the program.
All right. Bye.